LOD2, Creating Knowledge Out of Interlinked Data. Welcome to the LOD2 webinar series, Linked Open Data Tools and Services for Publishers, Enterprises and Governmental Institutions. LOD2 is a large-scale integrating project co-funded by the European Commission within the FP7 Information and Communication Technologies Work Programme. This 4-year project comprises leading linked open data technology researchers, companies and service providers. Coming from across 12 countries, the partners are coordinated by the Agile Knowledge Engineering and Semantic Web Research Group at the University of Leipzig, Germany. LOD2 will integrate and syndicate linked data with existing large-scale applications. The project shows the benefits in the scenarios of media and publishing, corporate data intranets and e-government. Once per month, the LOD2 webinar series offer a free webinar about tools and services along the linked open data lifecycle. Stay with us and learn more about acquisition, editing, composing, connected applications, and finally, publishing linked open data.
Just one thing before I welcome Philipp Frischmuth from University of Leipzig is if you have any questions in the course of the webinar, just take the GoToMeeting, this online room software. You got a chat area where you can type in questions, and we will pick out 3 to 5 questions at the end in the Q&A session where we tell you where we pick out these questions and ask Philipp then to answer them about the OntoWiki. So I'm very happy to welcome Philipp. Hello, Philipp.
Hello.
And I will hand over to him, and he will give us a presentation and very interesting demonstrations about the OntoWiki software tool. Thank you, and the floor is yours, Philipp.
Okay. So welcome again from my side. Again, my name is Philipp Frischmuth, and I'm from University of Leipzig, and I want to present the OntoWiki tool today. And I will start over with some slides about our university and our research group. So the University of Leipzig is one of the oldest and one of the largest in Germany. It was founded in 1409 and it has over 30,000 students. And it also hosts the Institute for Applied Computer Science, shortly InfAI, which itself hosts our working group, which you will see on the next slide. Our working group is called the Agile Knowledge Engineering and Semantic Web group, and it was founded in 2006 by Sören Auer. And we set the aims of our working group are the following. First, we want to contribute to the advancement of science in semantic web, knowledge engineering and software engineering. The second aim is that we want to provide cost-efficient, high-impact research and development which proves usefulness at an early stage. And last but not least, we want to bridge the gap between our research results and real-world applications. And we are currently 25 plus researchers, including, of course, research assistants. And our group is, again, divided into 3 subgroups. One is the Emergent Semantics subgroup, which I am part of and which develops the OntoWiki tool. And another subgroup is the MOLE subgroup, which stands for Machine Learning and Ontology Learning. And they, for example, developed the L-Learner tool. And the third subgroup is the SIMBA subgroup, which stands for Semantic Abstraction. And they, for example, develop Fox and Limes, which I think there will also be a webinar about this in a few, I think, after the next one. So here are some of our funded projects. First of all, the LOD2, Linked Open Data 2 project, which is a EU-funded project, and which is the project that brings you this webinar. Another one is the Lattice project, which stands for LOD Around the Clock. It's also a EU-funded project which aims at supporting companies in publishing linked data. And SCMS, which stands for Semantic Management Systems for Enterprise, Knowledge Management and Use Mining, also a EU-funded project which develops a semantic content management system for enterprises, which includes NLP technologies. And some projects that are already finished. I have pointed out two here. One was the OntoWiki project, which had the OntoWiki tool in its center and was also a EU-funded project with the goal of semantic collaboration for knowledge management, e-learning, and e-tourism. So the domain in this use case and this project was the e-tourism domain. And another one was the SoftWiki project, which not only implemented a tool, but also a whole workflow of distributed requirements engineering for agile software development. It was a German-funded project, and the prototype that was implemented in this project was also based on the OntoWiki tool. And there are some other projects, and if you are interested, you can go to our website and have a look there. So before I start with OntoWiki, I want to say some words about where we can see OntoWiki in the LOD2 in the LOD lifecycle. And here's one of the representations of this lifecycle, which includes 5 phases. And I want to show you in which phases OntoWiki can be involved. So the first phase, the acquisition phase, there we can see OntoWiki. For example, in OntoWiki you are able to upload and import existing RDF documents. So surely you can acquire data with OntoWiki. In the editing phase, of course, OntoWiki is a data wiki, so you can edit data, for example, via forms. So within what you see is what you get approach. And for composing and bundling, there you can comment or discuss data resources. So it's also possible. And for publishing interfaces, we have linked data server functionality as well as Sparkle endpoint built in. So clearly there we also can have OntoWiki. And last but not least, for application and services, here are some examples of application and services that OntoWiki provides. We have a versioning component, so all changes that you make to your data is tracked and can be rolled back, for example. And we provide a variety of visualization mechanisms within OntoWiki. Another part of the LOD2 project is the LOD2 stack. And the goal of the LOD2 stack is that we want to provide a collection of tools to support linked data publication. And here on the right side you can see another representation of the LOD lifecycle. And I want to just point out here in which of these bubbles you can involve OntoWiki. So you can use it for extraction, storage and querying, manual revision, authoring, as well as search, browsing, exploration of data, and via an extension of OntoWiki, which we developed, it's also in some sort of possible to have an evolution of your data. But now I want to start over with OntoWiki. So we call it a semantic data wiki. And why do we call it a wiki? Because it follows the wiki principles. So with OntoWiki it's really easy to edit data. So it's also really easy to make, for example, to make mistakes. But as usual in the wiki, it's possible to track that data, to track the changes to that data, and also to roll back accidental changes, for example. And it's collaborative, so that it's a web application that distributed user groups can edit data sets together. And we call it a data wiki because we have no text as the central element of information, but RDF data. And there are some, I think, two main conceptual differences to a classical wiki, and I want to point that out in the next two slides. First of all, we speak about resources and not about articles. So in a classical wiki that you can see, like for example on Wikipedia, you would have an article which is just normal text, and this text is annotated with links to other documents. In OntoWiki, all data are RDF resources, so they are identified via URIs, and they can have attached to them structured information, attributes, as well as relations to other resources. And the second conceptual difference that we make is that we try to avoid the usage of markup for the end user. Of course, the professional user also can type in like RDF, I call it source code, but we try where possible to provide formulas, forms for the user, so that's really easy to edit the data. So to summarize the first step, what's our vision behind OntoWiki, or the vision that we had in mind when we developed OntoWiki, or why we developed OntoWiki, because it's still, of course, developing. There are two goals. First, we want to provide a generic data wiki for arbitrary RDF data models. So it makes no difference which sort of structure your data has. It just has to be RDF, and OntoWiki can handle that. And we also want to avoid that we have a data model mismatch, because in all phases that you use OntoWiki, like importing data, editing data, and provide it to others, for example via linked data mechanisms, it's always based on RDF, so we have no data model mismatch here. And the second vision of OntoWiki is that we want to provide an application framework for knowledge-intensive applications, agile processes, and distributed user groups, such that it can be adapted to variety of use cases very easily. Okay. That brings me to an overview about the key features of OntoWiki, and I just want to go through them now, and these are mainly the features that I want to show you in the demo afterwards. So first of all, you are able to structure your data in knowledge bases, so you can have different knowledge bases which contain different kinds of information and which can include each other or also can be separate. So for example, you could have one knowledge base where you put your ontology information, like the description, what classes you have and what properties, and in another knowledge base which would import this knowledge base, you would have like the instance data. And it's also possible that you have linked data enabled knowledge bases that are knowledge bases that can be accessed via the linked data principle. So that you just type in a URI of your data resource and you get the information behind that. But it's not a must. We'll show that in my demo. You can also have arbitrary knowledge bases with namespaces that you do not own, and you can also browse that data and edit it and view it. The second main feature that OntoWiki provides is that it provides generic list and resource views that work with arbitrary RDF data. And in addition to that, to make a difference, you could also have like adapted views that are specific for certain kinds of information. But with a basic OntoWiki that you get when you download it, you get this generic list and resource views. We have a versioning component built in, so You can undo changes whenever you like. You can comment on arbitrary resources, so it's possible to discuss things. We have a built-in user management with an access control, so it's possible to have, if you want, you can have users and you can give different users different rights, like one user group can edit things and another user group can only view the data, for example. It's possible. It's also possible to edit information in place. So when you view your data, you just type in, click an edit button, and you can inline edit that information. And we provide a generic navigation hierarchy, which is by default configured to work as a class hierarchy. So this is a very common one, that you can have classes in your data set and subclasses and group your information with that information, and it makes it really easy to navigate through that data. But you could also, it's also built in a SCOS hierarchy configuration, and you could also build your own. Of course, it's possible to search for keywords and find resources through that. It's very easy to provide linked data, or mainly it's done automatically when you use the right namespace that you own and that your OntoWiki is accessible with. But it's also possible that you consume linked data. So when you open an arbitrary linked data URI within OntoWiki, I will show that later, then you can just grab that the information that is behind that. And it's also possible to import and export knowledge bases in a variety of RDF serialization formats like RDF XML, Turtle, or RDF JSON. But you could also view, import, and export arbitrary resources, so on a resource level, not only on a knowledge base level. Then you are able to filter lists of resources, such that you can filter data out that you can only get the resources you want, and we have a built-in graphical Sparkle editor. Okay. So that are the features that OntoWiki provides. We also provide some interfaces, namely a SparkURL endpoint, a link data endpoint if it's configured the right way. And in addition to that, we have a web dev interface, a RESTful API, a command line interface, mainly for administrative tasks, and a LDAP interface. I shortly want to say some words about the architecture of OntoWiki. It's a web application, so and it's PHP based, and that's why we use the Zen framework as the really basis of it, because it's a really good framework with a lot of functionality and a good code quality. And we try to use or reuse and also extend Zen functionality wherever possible. And above that, there's the Airflow API, which also uses Zen, but it's like a semantic web API that we provide, which you could also use for your project if you want. It's an open source API, and we use it for the store abstraction, for example, such that we can use either a MySQL backend or a Virtuoso backend as a triple store. And yeah, it includes also all that RDF functionality, the basis functionality. And above that is the OntoWiki application framework, which includes, like, for example, the extension mechanism, which I will mention on the next slide, and also includes the generic views. And last but not least, on top of that, we have RDF Author on the one side, which is a standalone JavaScript widget library, which we also develop here. And when I say standalone, this means that you can also use it for, it's also open source, and you could also use it for your project. And it works with arbitrary RDFA annotated documents. So in the OntoWiki case, all documents that we produce are RDF-A annotated, so we use that to build our forms where you can edit the information. And there are a lot of extensions, for example, a map extension, a pingback extension, a extension which I will also show a source extension which will show the source code of the resource, and lots of other extensions. And that brings me to a slide about the extensibility of OntoWiki. So we have 4 main types of extension mechanisms. The first ones are components. I think this are the most heavy ones and the most important extension, because they provide a own controller, and through the URL they have a namespace, basically the name of the extension, and they get a namespace such that you can access that functionality through a URL, the OntoWiki URL then, and they can also provide their own views and yes. Then we have plugins, and plugins they can add themselves to a variety of events that we provide. For example, if a statement is added or a statement is removed from a knowledge base, and they can take some input information and modify it and produce output information. An example of this is, for example, images. So when we have certain properties that we know are images, we can configure them, and the image link plugin would then take a URI and convert it to a HTML image tag, such that it's displayed in the browser as an image. We also have modules. These are small little windows that are displayed on the left side of OntoWiki or in the main content. And we have a very lightweight extension type, which are called the wrapper. And the wrapper take some input URI and can, for arbitrary data sources that you define, fetch data in a way that they know it's possible and convert them to RDF and then output RDF data, which can then be imported into your knowledge base. You can also extend OntoWiki if you write your own views and templates. You can theme it and also localize it to your language. And I think this brings me to the demo. I now want to show this functionality that I mentioned in real, and I just start. So this is the OntoWiki start screen as you would get it when you just download OntoWiki and install it on your system. It shows like a news feed, which is the AKSW news feed, but you could configure that it shows something else. It has a login box and like a main box with some menu. And what I want to show you first, I will log in as the administrator user. And since we have no knowledge base, this is a special knowledge base, the OntoWiki system configuration, which contains like the users that are in your system and which rights they have and things like that. I just ignore that. It's not so important now. We will create a new knowledge base, and for that I will go to the AKSW website and there to the OntoWiki section, and there we have a first step menu point, and I will grab this example knowledge base, which is we call the conferences knowledge base. It contains some example information. I will copy the download link of the RDF file, and I will set it to the location where it finds it, and then I will import that knowledge base. And what we now see is that we have selected the newly imported conference model, and I will log out again to show you that an anonymous user would also see this conference by default, because it's in the access control configured that this model can be seen by any user. and I can select it. And what I see then is some meta, some like summary information about the knowledge base, but for browsing, more important, this class hierarchy here. And I can, for example, here we have the class event, and I can show subclasses of this class, for example, the conference class, and I can select any class and we'll see a list of instances of this class. For example, here instances of the class conference, and as we can see, it shows by default shows 10 entries, and I can go to the next page here, and I can go back. And in addition to this, just the title which is shown here, I can show additional properties, like for example a logo, which would then show me an image. In this case, you see not all links are working anymore, but you get the idea. And we can also filter the list that is shown here. So now we have 37 results, and I can add a filter. For example, I want to filter the year, and that only shows me the year conferences in the year 2009. And I will set that filter, and now I have only 2 results left. So now I can select a conference, and what I see is the generic resource view. And what I can do here is not much, because I'm not logged in, and the anonymous user has not the right to edit this knowledge base. So I will log in again as the admin user. And now you see we are able to edit here. So I will show you the edit functionality now. I just click on the edit button, and all editable things will get like this inline form elements, and I can, for example, edit the label, and click just save, and it would edit the label. And I can make another edit through the sources tab. Here you see just a RDF serialization of the resource data, and I can also, as a professional user, for example, can edit this here too, and I could save that, and now we have a new label. And as I also said in the slides, we can comment on that resource, and it would be shown here. And also this comment is represented as RDF, so it would also be here in the class as a new instance of shock type comment now. And we can also roll back our changes. So we see here that we have 4 changes, and the reason for that is that one change, the editing of a label, are in fact 2 steps, namely deleting this statement and adding a new one. And if I select this, I can also see what in detail happened here, but I can only just click on the last one and click on rollback, and it would then roll back all these actions. And as we see, we now have the original label again. Of course, you can search. I search for a conference that I know that is an entry, and we have 1 result for that. And I can also query a Spark query. I have 1 prepared here. So select all conferences, and in addition, if it's there a year, I can just submit it, and I get all the results here. Or only 10, because we have an automatically limit to 10, but you could edit that. And it's also highlighted, so you can just easily type some Spark queries here. So what I now want to show you is the linked data functionality. So I will create a new knowledge base here, where I will just use the local namespace here. I have a local host domain here, and I will call this a knowledge base, or give it the URI demo.ontowiki.local, and I will just create a new and empty one. So this is done, and I will just view that resource and will create a new resource here. We call it Leipzig, and so I want to talk about the city of Leipzig. And as you can see, of course, there's no information available here because we have created an empty knowledge base. So I will make some changes here. I could, for example, add a label. We call it Leipzig. Maybe a description. The city of Leipzig. And another, oh no, that's not what I wanted to do. Another thing, we say that our resource of Leipzig is the same as the DBpedia resource for Leipzig. So, and we save. So now we have a local description of the city of Leipzig with a description, a label, and a link to the DBpedia URI. And when I click on this DBpedia URI, we of course have no information available in our local database, but we can fetch information. There we go just to the resource menu and click on import data with linked data wrapper, and it would fetch the information from DBpedia and import it to our local knowledge base. And now we have all the information that DBpedia has about the resource Leipzig in our local knowledge base, and we can do what we want with it. We can edit it, we can query it. And in order to show you again that this is actually linked data or accessible through linked data, I can just call Leipzig in the location bar of my browser, and it would redirect me to this page about Leipzig. And I have also prepared that I could try to fetch it as RDF XML in the console, like with this accept header. And when I do this, I will get an RDF representation of this resource. Like you can see, it's not a huge resource, but you can see, you can get the idea. So I think I will go back to the slides now. This is what I wanted to show you about the functionality of the basic OntoWiki as you would get it when you just download it. So not adapted to anything, but of course one goal of OntoWiki is to adapt it to use cases. So I will now present you two use cases. And the first one is the website of the LOD2 project. So this is the website for this project, and there we use OntoWiki as a content management system, and we use OntoWiki there to generate a custom front end which shows just web pages with content, and to maintain this content we use OntoWiki as a backend. We also have for the front end generate some pages where the pages are automatically generated via Sparkle queries. So that's our auto-updated pages, and all the content is also linked data. I have two screenshots here if you want to later have a look at it again, but I will also show that in the demo. So this is the LOD2 start page of the LOD2 project, and you see the welcome.html page, and I can just click on this login edit button, and now I see an OntoWiki. I can log in here with my name, and if I click on edit, I get this edit view again, but also with what you see is what you get editor for the main content that is shown on the page. I will not will not save that here now. I could go back to the site on every situation, and again to say this is this looks like a normal HTML page, but it's also generated by an OntoWiki extension, which we call the site extension. And we will show you another page, the deliverables page. This is a list of all deliverables within the project, and I can also click on edit here, and now you see that we see no content here, but we see a query, and when we click on that query we can see that we actually have a Sparkle query here that defines how this site looks in the end. Not how it looks, because the content can change, but every time the page is accessed it will execute this query and show you this result list. And again, if we go here via a browser, we get RDF, we get HTML, but we could also just download it as RDF. So in this case, we get a document back, and I can only show you that. Oh no, okay. You would get an RDF here as a result. Okay. This is the demo about the LOD2 website. And the second use case I want to highlight is the scoreboard.LOD2.eu project. This is a visualization of some key dimensions of the European Information Society. And in this project we extracted RDF data from CSV files and imported them into a Triple Store. And we queried this RDF data with custom Sparkle queries and used them to provide visualizations. And here again a screenshot, but I can show it live to you. So the outcome were 4 visualizations, and they are interactive. It's actually JavaScript, and you can filter them. For example, you could select broadband lines, and you could select, here you see a comparison of the different European countries, and you could also select another representation like this one. Again, maybe here you see for Germany how it compares to the other countries, and all that information can be also exported as RDF or CSV, and we could also access that information again within an OntoWiki. This is the OntoWiki which contains that information, and I will select the data knowledge base, and you could click on, for example, observation, and click a resource and show the details about that information statistically. But of course you could also define a custom Sparkle query against that data set, and ask questions that you can get. Okay, so this was the second use case. Now I want to say some words about the requirements that OntoWiki requires. So it's again a web application. So we require an Apache web server, or say in other words, we tested this with Apache, or we develop it with Apache in mind, but we also tested this with Nginx, but it requires some additional work. For example, you have to configure, it's a little bit more difficult to configure the PHP and stuff like that. We support 2 backends. One is Virtuoso, which is the recommended one, but we also support MySQL based backend, which only is supported for small knowledge bases, because for larger ones it will get a little bit slower. And you would need PHP 5.2 or above, and the current version of the well-known browsers like Google Chrome, Safari, Firefox, or even MS Internet Explorer. but again, please use the current version. And if you would use the development version of OntoWiki and bring your own Zend framework, you should use a version above 1.5. But if you download it just from the download sites, we would also already include the Zend here. Yeah, for the OntoWiki installation, you would just download pre-configured download package, which includes everything you need from our GitHub page, or you could, as a developer, also clone the repository and get a up-to-date version of OntoWiki. But of course, it's possible because it's under heavy development that some things are not working in the most recent version in the repository. If you download it, you would just extract it to your web documents folder and copy a file which is named config.ini-dist to config.ini, and this is the configuration file. You have to open it with an editor and adjust three things, which are the database parameters. You have to say if you want whether you want to use Virtuoso or the MySQL backend, and you have to enter the username for this database and the password. And when you're done with that, you just point your browser to that folder. For example, if you have put it into a folder named OntoWiki, then you would just go to localhost/OntoWiki, and the initialization of the database and such things would be done automatically after that. Okay. So that's basically what I wanted to tell you about OntoWiki. I think we have some time for question and answer now. And yes, maybe we do that first, and afterwards I can put up a slide again here about where you get support for OntoWiki, or you can get support for OntoWiki. Or maybe I say this now and we go then to question and answers.
As you like to, Philip.
Yeah. So we have a ontowiki.net webpage where you can find some useful information about OntoWiki. We also have a user discussion group which is aimed at users of OntoWiki. It's hosted at Google Groups, as you can see here. And for developers, we have a GitHub repository and also a developer mailing list. And as OntoWiki is part of the LOD2 stack, you could also ask your questions to the LOD2 stack support mailing list. Okay, thank you for your attention again, and let's continue with questions.
Yeah, hello Philip. This is Martin again. Thank you very much for this presentation of OntoWiki. I'm not sure if you mentioned it. One thing's come to my mind. OntoWiki is 100% open source, available under the GNU GPL license. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay,
version 2 of the GPL.
Okay. So you can use and reuse it as you want to do it.
Also the Erfurt API and the RDF author widget library are also open source.
Okay. Great. Yeah, we got some questions here, and we're very well in time, so I picked the first one that is here. One participant says, maybe I did not get it right, but how do you create linked data in OntoWiki? For example, to link Acapulco to DBpedia in your example, in your demo of the conferences you showed before.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really easy. You would just create a local resource that talks about Acapulco, and then you would click the edit button and select a predefined same as, for example, or define another property how you want to link it to the Wikipedia resource of Acapulco, and then you would can type like a keyword like Acapulco, and it would use the CDJ search service and to find linked data resource that talk, or documents that talk about the resource like that. And you could use, for example, the DBpedia one because it's quite famous and has quite some information. and just link to it with a statement.
Okay, thank you. Sounds good. Yeah, there's another one. That's an interesting one that interests me too. It's about licensing in RDF. That is a hot topic, I think. And it says, is it possible to add licenses or license information to my OntoWiki linked open data, so to my RDF triples?
Yes, this is possible. It's done. You can do it via. We have two extensions for that are not enabled by default, but you could enable that. The one is a provenance extension where you can add some additional metadata to resources, like that you are the producer of that information, and you could also attach license information there. And another extension is the void extension, where you can create a description of the data set, and also you can also attach license information there.
Okay, thank you very much. So we pick out the last one for today. It says, okay, why do I need OntoWiki to convert a CSV file to RDF in your scoreboard example? There are so many other tools for RDF conversion, so what are the real benefits of using OntoWiki here?
Yes, of course, you would not need in the first case to use OntoWiki for converting CSV to another format, but the advantage in converting it to RDF and storing it in the Triple Store is that you could then really easily query that data via standardized SPARQL information. And you could also, within OntoWiki, you could browse that information very easily. And I think that's not so easy with plain CSV files that you can convert into another format. And of course, you can also create custom visualizations out of that information more easily with the standardized RDF data.
Okay, thank you. That sounds like a good benefit to having a good editor here on an RDF. I think we have time for one last question. That is here, is the audit trail information stored as RDF?
Okay. What is meant with this question?
Audit trail information, is it stored as RDF?
I'm not sure about that. I don't think so, no.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Sorry, can't answer that. Maybe you could write an email and I can give you a more detailed. Mm-hmm. I have to do some research, but I don't think so.
Yeah. It's no problem. We have this question here,
yeah.
and we can also publish the answer afterwards.
Okay.
In the recordings or the slides we will prepare and publish to the audience. Yeah, so thank you very much, Philip. I think that was very interesting to see the features and all the possible things that we can do with OntoWiki, and also as a part of LOD2. Thank you very much for your good presentation.
Okay.
And yeah, so it's up to me just to say a few words. Sorry?
Yeah, thank you for listening again.
Okay. Thank you. Just a few words and announcements at the end of today's webinar of the LOD2 webinar series. We will publish the recorded webinar as well as all the slides that include the demos and all the links and all the support lines, etc. In the course of 1 week from today. And I would like to announce the next two webinars. We have one on the 21st of February that is on the Silk Workbench by Free University of Berlin. The Silk Workbench is a very interesting tool for automated and semi-automatic linking of huge data sets, including machine learning capability and so on. And then in March 2012, the date is not fixed today, but it will about the third week, also again on a Tuesday, we will have LIMES and SIME that are both two tools from University of Leipzig. I know, for example, LIMES very well. That's also a very powerful tool for automatic linking of data sets and data sources and huge big data things. So thank you very much for participating participation also from my side. Maybe last thing, just to keep you, to remind you, but I'm sure you know about this. We have in about 2 weeks there is the Semtech Biz in Berlin, just as an interesting event that comes up about I think it's Monday and Tuesday, the 6th and 7th of February in Berlin. So it's the first Semtech Biz on the continent in Europe, and we are looking forward to meet you there. There are lots of people from the LOD2 consortium, as well as, for example, from my own company, that is the Semantic Web company. We will present pool party there, but that's a different story. So thank you again for listening, and I really hope to meeting you again on the 21st of February. It's 4 o'clock again in the afternoon Central European time, to have a presentation of the Silk Workbench. So yeah, enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you very much, and bye-bye.
Hope you enjoyed staying with us. If you need more detailed information, visit us at www.lod2.eu and let us know how we can improve to meet your expectations. Don't forget to register for our next webinar. Have a great day, and don't forget.